To add an instance to dbWatch, we can start a wizard by using the plus icon. And the process we go through in this wizard is almost identical on all database platforms. So we start with an IP address or a host. And we can type in the port. And if this port is associated with a database platform of a certain type, we automatically show this, but you can also override this and select a different database platform. If you use a port that is not associated with an instance, you have to select this step. And then we use our login to create a database and the dbWatch user on the system. So this has to be a user that has privileges to create a database or create a user and grant privileges to that user. There's different authentication methods to try out. If you use OS authentication on SQL Server, the dbWatch service process has to run as a user with credentials in the domain. You can also use Kerberos users directly, and then that is an Active Directory user directly using the Kerberos. So in this setup, we will use the SI user and type in a password. When we click next, this driver is auto-detected and we see connection OK. And in the next step, we have already detected that this is a SQL Server 2019. You can choose what group to put the database into. By default, we have development, production, and test. But you can create your own groups, and you can also change this later on. We select the license we want to use on this database instance. In my setup, I have only demo licenses, but this can be different depending on the licenses you have from dbWatch. We want to create a database schema, and this name is generated for us. And if there is multiple dbWatch installations on this instance, this is a test instance. So here we are trying out the user, but we can also type in things here. And we can also edit the database name and the location of the database and the initial size here as well. And then we create a user. And the password here is, we can type it in, but it is also auto-generated uniquely to this installation. So it is a generated password hash. We can either use a job template to select what monitoring jobs to install. And there is a default template provided with the software, which is the databases that are default selected. You can also hook this radio and button and use the custom job selection, which will show up in the next step, where you can select individual jobs. But you can also change that later on. So in this setup, I'll use the default jobs template. And then we click next. And this is where we define what authentications are used. This is usually, the defaults are usually what people use. But here you can also set what authentication is used for the management, and where you can change things and look deeply into the instance management-wise. SQL worksheet, where you can run individual SQL queries, and reporting, where you run reports. So these are the default setups. You can change them later on and add authentications later on as well. Next, you get to set a display name for the database instance, and this is the name that gets associated with the instance in dbWatch. This is a name that you choose, and you can also add instance notes. This is information about the instance that is also visible by other DBAs. And then when you click next, we go through the process of creating the database and the user, and adding a bit of the data model, and then we are successfully installed. and it will show up in this tree structure here. So under development, we have this instance, and as we use the template to install, the actual jobs that are added to the product to monitor different things gets added eventually by the dbWatch server, so that we eventually get all the jobs that we want to have on this instance added to the product. So that is the step to add an instance to dbWatch. It's a similar step for all platforms. And if you don't spend a lot of time talking while you add the instance, this can be very quickly. You can add, have multiple windows open for the wizard. And there's also other ways to add a lot of instances rapidly by either using a CSV file to import it, using the upload resource, or you can use the command line client to script the installation of instances as well. dbWatch Control Center, redefining database operations. Please visit us at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube.